Hi, it's Paul Banis with GreatDad.com, and thank you very much for joining either the podcast or the YouTube version of the podcast. I'd really appreciate it if you took just a second to subscribe either on your podcast app or in YouTube. It doesn't really do anything. It's not going to send you any emails. It's just going to show up more often on your feed, and it does me a lot of good in terms of getting more exposure for this work I do to support dads. I'd also like to invite you to come to my page, GreatDad.com/go, if you'd like to discuss more about any of the issues that we are covering within the podcast, especially if there's any way I can help you to be a sounding board in your own struggles to be a dad and to be there for your family. So take a look at that. It also includes a link to my course on gratitude, where at GreatDad.com/gratitude with a offer to take that course for free. So see you in a second. Hey, it's Paul Banis with GreatDad.com here with my weekly series talking to dads about modern fatherhood. And I've got dad maybe a little bit more in my cohort of my cohort of parenting. Welcome, Dave Campbell.
Hey, Paul, I'm loving your show. I love what you do for dads. Great to be here.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining me. You've got a lot of expertise in podcasts, so maybe you'll give me some free advice after this. But we really want to focus on your fatherhood experience. You've got kids from 22 to 27, right?
Yeah, and that age range, three kids,
Yeah,
boy, girl, boy, in that
yeah,
order. Yeah, it's a totally different world now.
yeah.
Crazy.
Well, yeah, certainly the parenting that we did, minus all the social media and iPhones and everything, was and we were lucky. We were in that last group of parents who were able to do it a little bit more easily than the current generation, I think.
Right on the cusp of that change, right? We saw it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and for some people, I think that they did not know how to negotiate it because it was so brand new. I remember our school in middle school just gave out iPads to everybody, and like no filters for porn or
Nothing,
violence
right?
or anything. Just like, here, go at it.
Yeah.
And a lot of families had a lot of challenges with that.
Yeah, it was I remember my kids learning cell phones and having their own phone and then being in their room on their own, and the deconstruction of family dinner time was
Ugh.
interesting. Everybody wanted to take their plates to their room or the TV, right? It was like so much change from how I grew up and how we
Yeah.
did family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife was visiting my in-laws the last weekend with my brother-in-law, and that both kids don't have phones yet. And she said it was just wild to see
Right.
them having what used to be considered a regular summer. The kids were kind of lolling about saying, I'm bored. What are we going to do today? And that's actually kind of a luxury looking back, because we did have that freedom of kind of just looking at the clouds and wondering what was up there, and kind of the silly stuff that kids do rather than jumping into the wild world of media and all the rest.
I saw a clip of a dad who had grounded his son, who was like 8 or 9, and how he grounded his son was to send him outside to play. It's like, can I come in and go on my tablet? No, you're grounded. Go back out and play. It's
Wow.
like, but all my fun things are in my room. Exactly. Go play. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, we've totally changed what
Yeah.
grounding means. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to know. I mean, I certainly for us, it looks like it's bad. And generations before, I mean, my mom was always crazy the fact that I was reading comic books all day long, and like she thought that
Yeah.
was the big evil. Now,
Yeah.
now I'd be happy if my kids were reading anything, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's a totally new world. I don't know how I would fare as a dad today in 2025. First time dad, it's a totally different world. And that's kind of why I'm glad you have your show. It's why I kind of started my show, was to be a resource for those dads who feel like they don't know what they're doing in the moment.
Yeah.
And there's so much technology and so much information, but geared towards fathers. There's a plethora of great content for moms, but I kind of heard you talking about that on your show. It's like, where's the stuff for dad, right? And I
What?
think
Yeah.
that's what we do. I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Dave, because back when we got started, there was literally nothing, like a handful of websites for dads. I mean, you could go on the internet and search out dad. For a while, Great Dad had #1 search result for dad, the word dad. It
Yeah.
was that little talked about. And now I think there's a lot more out there, but it's interesting you say that there still seems to be a shortage because there's certainly a lot more, but still not enough.
Yeah. And the whole reason I started Dad Space for my podcast was just the idea that when my oldest was being born, we were in the hospital. The doctor looked at me just as we're getting close to the day and the time it's going to happen. And the doctor said to me, we're here for your wife. She's the priority, and I totally agree.
Yeah.
They said no one's going to catch you if you pass out. And they said to me, and they also said, there's nobody here for you. And really, Paul, in the moment, that didn't sting as much as it did the next day.
Yeah.
After my family had come and gone, my wife is resting, I'm holding my son, and I'm like, I couldn't get that out of my brain. There's
Yeah.
nobody here for me. I went overnight, I went from being a guy
Right.
to being a dad. I have this title now, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with myself. And I
Yeah.
didn't know how to answer the question of there's nobody here for me. And I felt so alone. I felt like
Oh,
totally underwhelmed, like just overwhelmed and underprepared for this
right.
dad title that I had just received. I was dubbed a dad in that moment. And I'm like, but who's going to show me how to do this? Right. And there was nobody there. So I
Right.
wanted my podcast and conversations with dads, similar to what you're doing, to be that gap filler for a dad who feels completely overwhelmed, whether it's 2025, first time dad, or back when we had our kids, just that moment of, hey, this is a journey. And if we can connect with another dad and hear dad stories that encourage us, then maybe we can do this better. Right. That's
Could
kind
I
of,
ask you, was your dad living or is your dad?
yeah. My dad has passed away since, and
Yeah.
it's, he was a great father for me and a great
Oh,
example,
good.
but they all go back home at one point. Right. And
Yeah.
then the reality of 3 a.m. feedings and diaper changes and what end is up and all that. You don't know any of that stuff. And
Yeah.
we didn't have technology that we had today. We didn't have that back then. So YouTube wasn't a thing, podcasts weren't a thing, books weren't out there,
Yeah.
all that we talk about, right? So
Yeah. My dad had passed away. So when I was anointed dad, suddenly it was like, just like I hadn't heard that word in my context of my living for a few years at that point, and it really did feel like the mantle had shifted.
yeah,
Similar to the way when he died, suddenly like there was no dad in my picture anymore.
yeah. And that's a huge title change,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of on the job learning in the
Yeah.
moment. You go to a new job, you get the promotion, you get the new position, they walk you out onto the shop floor for the first time, and you're expected to perform, right? It's like, but I don't know what I'm doing. In that moment, you're like, I'll just fake it, I guess, until I come up with an answer. But I think having the resources we have through your show and the conversations I hear on your podcast, I think it's just a great starting point for
Yeah.
anybody that's looking for that information.
Yeah, I think think there's the mechanical part of it, just changing the diapers and all the rest of the stuff. Like you don't know how to do it, and for a long time, I think there were a lot of women and a lot of mother-in-laws who were very guilty of kind of putting us in a box. Like, oh, isn't that cute? You're changing the diaper, or isn't that cute? You trying to feed the baby,
Yeah,
and rather than just saying, that's what we all do. We all pitch in. We all play our roles, and there's no like a female role or a male role or a mom
yeah,
thing, a dad thing, and we do it differently, and that I think that should be both appreciated and celebrated because I'd rather have an involved dad who doesn't do a diaper changing well than one
yeah,
who just sits in the other room waiting to.
yeah. Right. Yeah. And I remember taking my kids out when they were little. I would, because my wife and I were both working during Monday to Friday. So Saturday morning was dad time. Grab the
Yeah,
kids, throw them in the car, we go off somewhere and have the morning together. And my wife would be home, sleep in, do whatever she wants.
yeah.
She had some time to herself. But I remember sitting in the restaurant with my kids, and somebody we know would come up to me and say, hey, I see you're out with the kid. Are you watching the kids today for your wife? I'm like, would you say that to her if I wasn't
Right,
here?
right,
Are you watching the kids because your husband's busy? No. I'm like, I'm not babysitting. These are my
right,
children.
Right.
These are my kids. These are my responsibility. I'm not a nanny. These are my kids. Why would you? And I know they meant well, but in the
Yeah.
moment, I'm like, why is that a thing?
Well, they're trying to give you an attaboy, but still it comes off as a little like
Wait a minute. Right.
not
Yeah.
understanding what
Yeah.
what
I
role to
thought
play.
I never saw it as a chore. I saw it as a gift to have time with my kids
Yeah.
as a young dad, right?
Yeah.
Again, I didn't do everything perfect, but I tried my best.
Yeah. Well, what I really want to get into with you is because you've done some thinking about this is the change to empty nesting after having been an involved dad. I think dads who weren't involved, it's like, oh, okay, just one less person at the dining room
Yeah.
table tonight, but it doesn't change their lives very much. But if you were involved, if you were going to school, every day, or all those all those sports games, all those theater performances, all that
Yeah.
stuff, and suddenly that ends. How do you prepare for that eventuality if your kids are 15, 16, and then how do you deal with it after it happens?
So here's what complicated it for me, because you said the word sudden. Sudden is exactly what happened for my wife and I. The global event, we'll call it. Our employers told us that we had to reduce the impact of our social circles during the global event so that we can continue working. So we went to our kids and said, hey, I know you guys have a rich social life, but if we're going to continue working, you guys need to stay home. We need to cut it off for, we thought, a couple of weeks at that moment, right? It's just going to be a couple of weeks, no big deal.
Sure.
And our kids said to us, no. And we're like, no. Like they were at that age where they're in relationships, they had friendships, they had lives they were building, and they're like, no. And our three kids, in the matter of 2, 3 months, went from being a house of five to a house of two
Hmm.
because they all pursued their relationships. They all went out on their own during the global event because being home with mom and dad and not able to see their partners, their friends, or whatever was a no-go for them. In that moment, they made a choice. And my wife and I went from, again, a full house to the two of us looking at
But
each other going, what just happened?
but your youngest was what, 17 at that.
He would have been, well, 17 turning 18, right? So he was off to do his thing,
So
right?
they
And we're
moved
like,
they moved out of the house to
boom, yep.
wow.
And the runway was so short for us that when I first contemplated the idea of not having my kids home with us anymore, I saw it as a victory that, hey, look at the freedom we got. My wife saw it the exact opposite. She was the glue for our home. If you had to be somewhere, if you needed a reminder of something, she cared and loved our kids and our family. And that was her identity. She
Wow.
lost her identity immediately. She was
Yeah.
mourning the loss of the children leaving the house. I was celebrating. Now there's a conversation where
Yeah.
I'm all excited about, hey, look, we got all this free time. We can do this and this and this. And she's like in the corner going, I don't know who I am anymore
Uh-huh.
as a parent. And like
Yeah.
total mismatch, right? So I had to learn how to embrace her approach to empty nesting, and she had to learn mine because we were in two different paths at that moment.
Wow.
And had I just kept celebrating, that was pushing her further and further down
Oh
as I'm
yeah.
rejoicing, right?
Right.
And she couldn't understand why I wasn't upset about this.
Yeah.
Right. So now we're fragmented as a relationship because we see this as two different opportunities, right?
Wow.
Or like a disadvantage. So it was a really tense time on top of global event and everything else going on.
Right.
We were struggling as a family to deal with now what? And some of
Right.
our kids moved far away. They weren't even like in the same city.
Wow.
So you can't even see them.
Right.
Right. So there was a really, really tough time.
Wow. I just get that seems hard to believe that they would all need that much freedom that quickly, but at the same time, I guess maybe not surprising that so many people reacted to this whole thing in different ways. Some people knuckled down, and other ones refused to
And
refused to obey.
and that was the thing. We didn't know how long this was going to last,
Yeah,
right? 2 weeks, a month. Like we can get through that. But it just kept lagging and lagging and
right.
on and on. And here in Canada, we had bouts where it was completely locked down and then it was opened and then locked down again. So you'd have a taste of freedom and then it was taken away. So we were like, we didn't know how long this would be, but years and years of this happened, right, for us up here. And life moves on, right?
Yeah.
Relationships move on, friendships move on. And, it was a really, really trying time. And when I talk to people about empty nesting, that's a piece of the story that many people don't share,
Yeah.
that it happened at that period in time. If we had a longer runway, we could drive our kids to college and set up their dorm room and meet the parents, and all of these things were taken out of the picture for
Yeah.
us. And we didn't know how to react. And there was nobody there for us in the moment to kind of
So
bounce off.
tell me a little bit more about your celebration. Do you think that was pure celebration, or was it a way to handle the fact that it had occurred and you didn't have a power over it? Yeah. Was there something else going on just beyond, hey, I don't have to be anywhere at, 6 o'clock or
Yeah, you do run the kids around to all their events,
yeah,
and you don't your life is lived in their calendar.
yeah,
So, we move things around for them. I just saw it as like, I don't have to be somewhere now. So
yeah,
now I have freedom to do fill in the blank. For me, podcasting became one of those fill in the blanks. But I didn't know what to do with myself, really, to really open with you. I didn't know how to fill the gap. I'm relearning my relationship with my wife in real time, because now it's just the two of us.
yeah,
Um, we can't go anywhere. We can't do anything in the moment. We're homebound.
right.
So you really have to kind of reinvest in your relationship as well. So had I known this way before, my suggestions for people who are getting close to this, 15, 16 years of age for your kids,
Yep.
reinvest in your relationship.
Yeah.
You really need that strong relationship. And the other thing that I found through podcasting and talking to people were the single parents. The moment your kids leave the house and you're a single dad, you're a single mom, you don't have that other person in the room
Mm,
to counterbalance the loneliness and the emotions in that moment. So if you're a single parent coming close to that time when your kids go off to college or whatever that big change is, you need to invest in your own circle of community in advance of that change happening.
yeah.
Because we had each other, we have a great relationship, but we didn't realize that the runway was going to be so short, which caused a lot of long night conversations of what do we do next, right? And just be aware that you might see this change as different than your partner, and be sensitive to each other. Don't just think that everybody thinks and sees the way you see the world. They might not. So just be aware of that and be cautious and have those conversations, right? Because again, if you're the person who keeps the family running and the kids leave, now what?
Yeah.
Right? So just have that in your mind as you get close to that age group.
Well, that is a huge dichotomy. The idea like one is celebrating, the other one is mourning. I
Yeah.
mean, those are two very different ways to see this whole thing. And I guess the way I approach it, like a lot of things in life, is that there's a natural progression of things, and somehow putting a philosophical spin that worked for me. I'm not saying that everybody needs to should do it that way, but having that philosophical spin that there's a natural evolution of things, and that's the way things work, and life is moving toward this inevitable end and everything. But
Yeah.
all of it is part of this, may I say, journey. May I use that
Yeah.
over word journey? But it is like there are all these steps. But I appreciate the fact that you had these very different things. What do you do? How about dads? Do you think that there's anything different about the dad experience that would lend itself to either seeing it as of a loss or a freeing
Well, the
opportunity?
loss, I think, from a dad's perspective, is when our kids are out in the world, we have social companions through our kids with their parents.
Yeah,
Sporting events,
right,
all these other things. That's your identity as a parent. So you take your kids to football, you hang out with the football dads and the football
right,
moms. But when that's all over, some of those relationships just don't continue.
right.
So that's a sense of identity as parents
Yeah,
in the parents of our kids and their friends. So that's one miss, I think, that people don't anticipate quite as much. there's no reason to be with these people on a regular basis. So you don't have that identifying event on your calendar that brings you together in community. When there's an absence of that, what do you replace it with? I find that a lot of the men that I talk to don't have a replacement.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I look at my wedding photo, oh, and I look at the guys that stood with me in my wedding, I think today I could call one of them.
Right. Well,
The
wow.
other six, I don't know where they are. We've kind of life has changed and they're in different places. They've moved on. One of the guys in my wedding party is now a police officer and he's not on social anymore. So I can't just like Facebook him and all that stuff. He doesn't do
Yeah.
that anymore.
Right.
Part of it is part of what he does. So I've lost connection with this guy. I don't even know what city he's in anymore. We're like super close all the way through up to my wedding and beyond. Our social circles begin to shrink. And then when you lose that connection through your kids and other things and events, it shrinks even more. And I don't find a lot of men rebuilding those gaps. So your circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where you're on your own in some cases. And in the loneliness of that happening is where I find a lot of men that I talk to struggle the most, is they don't have somebody in their corner that they could call at 3 a.m. when they have a flat tire on the side of the road. Those guys aren't around as much. And
Yeah.
what I find is we have to be so vigilant to add to our world as we see things change. We need to be like not taking advantage of that situation or not recognizing it and rebuilding new relationships. We got to put ourselves out there. And as an introvert, super hard to do that because I'm not just a guy that's going to walk up to you at a coffee shop and go, "Hey, I'm Dave, you're Paul, nice to meet you." That's not me. I can't do
Yeah.
that. So it's even harder if you're not naturally an outgoing person
Yeah.
to make these relationships.
Yeah,
So
I'm an introvert as well,
yeah,
functioning introvert, and I totally get that. And I think it's such great advice. I mean, try to reconnect with your spouse and try to get closer years in advance of the thing happening. But this whole male mental health and physical crisis that we're having right now, a lot of men post 50 or
yeah,
55
yeah,
really losing the sense of meaning. And if one of those biggest anchors of your meaning was your kids, that's like a double whammy. I think I kind of consciously started to think about letting go of some of those what I thought were kind of surface relationships within the school community and really focusing on the ones among other men who brought me more joy isn't the word, but more satisfying, deeper, vulnerable conversations, the one I could really have relationships with rather than just go play golf with or, do an activity. It became increasingly important to me to have real conversations.
right. Yeah. And I think that's just the one thing that we need to be super focused on. For me, again, because I'm an introvert, I really do like podcasting for the connection with other
Yeah,
people.
yeah, it's
For
it's
me,
great
it
that I
does
mean,
fill a gap.
even nobody ever listens, you get to have a conversation like we're
Right.
having right
I get to
now.
talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Right. And just know you're not alone.
Yeah,
Right. And that again, going back to the answer to that question, like there's no one here for you, then what do you do about that? If your identity is wrapped up in your relationship with your partner, or your identity is wrapped up in your relationship with your children, what happens when those things change?
yeah,
Who's here for you? And I'm like, I think if I could go back and do some things over, I think I would date my wife more, even
yeah,
when the kids are home,
yep,
to invest in our relationship, to making sure that's nice and strong, to make her my priority, to invest in myself, like hobbies, things that interest me, what lights me up. I'm a musician, I love music. So pursuing my music, doing something that fills my own cup and not
yeah,
feeling guilty for that, right? Because our kids pull us in many ways. We want time with our partner, we have our job, we have all these things, but what fills our own cup? And when is it okay for us to take time for us and not feel guilty to do so? I think that's something that we need to put in front of us is when was the last time you did something that made you happy as a guy
yeah,
without anybody else in the room? Like just sitting on a dock with a fishing pole and not thinking about anything for 4 or 5 hours. If that's your thing, when's the last time you did that thing?
Yeah.
And don't wait. Like, you need to create and carve out time for yourself. I know my wife and other women I've met are very good at this.
They're very good at
They
this.
go to the
Yes.
salon, they do the thing, whatever it is, they go watch a movie with their friends. They know what it means to make time for themselves. And I think as guys, we don't always do that well. So whatever that is for you, tinkering around with your car in the driveway, great. If that's what fills your cup, then do that.
Yeah.
But never feel guilty for taking time for yourself.
Yeah.
Even in the busyness of life, carve it out somehow, make space for yourself. Listen to a podcast for dads, do something,
There
right?
you go.
Fill your cup, get a book, learn, grow, do something, learn another language. I don't know what it is, but there's something for you that really interests you. Don't delay it until your kids leave, until you're at that season of life. Start now. Like, just
Yeah.
start.
Well, I'm struck by the fact that probably a lot of people know this. They've heard it in the, in the zeitgeist, all this kind of stuff, but a lot of people don't end up, directly doing it. They avoid
Right.
it, and then they do hit a mental health crisis. Something bad happens, they're laid off, their wife asks for a divorce. So many horrible things can happen in life. And when they do, if you're alone, it is far worse than if you're with other people. Why do you, I mean, I don't know if there's an answer to this, but why do you think it's hard for us to take those steps? That I'm sure anybody listening is like, oh, that's great advice. Tomorrow I'm going to go out and volunteer. I'm going to go and start a hobby. I'm going to ask my wife out for a date. But then it doesn't happen because it's hard for us, right? Especially
Yeah.
for us introverts.
Yeah. I think, as for me, speaking personally, as a dad, my whole life has been about serving my family.
Yeah,
And the thought of having time for myself is kind of like the afterthought. At the end of the week, at the end of my day, at the end of my responsibilities, when everything is finished, then it's time for Dave. And I'm like, well, why is that so common? And what can I do to change that?
yeah,
How can I make myself a priority? I'm still a guy who, at one point, I wasn't married, I wasn't dating, I was just Dave. What was I into? What did I love back
yeah,
then? And why have I fallen out of love with the things that used to capture my attention? And how do I get back to the point where I'm a priority on my list? Not the last thing on my list, but I'm on the list.
mm,
And it's just something that I want to be more cognizant of. And
yep,
how do I show up for myself? Without the guilt. I think that's the
yeah,
part where that I think a lot of guys struggle with is, I want to make time for myself, but then it means I'm saying no to something else, right? I'm walking away from my kids to take my wife out, or I'm going fishing by myself. My wife's like, "Where are you going?" Right? Well, I know there's things to do, but I need this time. And not feeling like I'm letting somebody down. And I
yeah.
think that's part of it. I just wanted to make sure everybody else was okay. That was my thing.
It sounds like you were lucky that you had like music that you were able to rediscover, and then podcasting, which is just a fun thing, no matter what
Yeah.
what becomes of it. Um, I wonder if some men get caught in this trap too of like, will it will it have a financial return? Is it worth doing? And if I start this, what if I change my mind? I don't like it, and then I said I was going to do this thing, and then I didn't do it. I just read something the other day about how valuable it is for us to be dilettantes, to
Mhm.
try all kinds of things and to get really passionate about something with this idea that you're going to do it and love it for the rest of your life, and then give it up after 3 months and find something else. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I mean,
Right.
we're writing our own story. We're not, unless you're trying to impress your wife about something that you're doing. We're all doing this for ourselves, and who cares if you are a great photographer, a passionate photographer, and then you decide, nah, I'm moving on. Now I'm
Yeah.
making
Right.
movies, or now I'm doing podcasts. Now I'm doing theater. Now I'm doing volunteering, whatever.
Right. I think, as a creative person, I find that I get creativity finds me when I'm being creative. So when I'm in
Yeah.
that space, that's when the ideas come. It's when I'm not in that space is when I don't feel inspired.
Uh-huh.
So I have to put myself into action. And that's kind of the hardest thing, is to get off the couch, put the remote down, and go do the thing that that would light me up. I don't think there shouldn't be any fear about being happy as a man. And I whatever it is for you, again, whoever's listening to this, there's something that you just love to do and you've almost forgotten about it. Then carve out some space this week to either reintroduce it to yourself, watch a video about it again. You love bird watching, watch a bunch of bird watching videos. I don't know, there's something, right? Then just start getting interested in that thing again and see if
Yeah.
it's still a passion.
Yeah. And you don't have to wait until you're 50 or the kids are this 15 years. I remember our kids when my second, because I stayed at home with our kids after the second one was born. So I was really there, full time. And then kindergarten, or I guess it was preschool started first. That was like 3 hours a day. And then it was, 6, 7 with kindergarten. And it was at that point that I realized that I can't say I'm a stay-at-home dad for forever. I got to have, I mean, even if I don't have a job, I have to do something with that time. And I'm sure, traditionally a lot of women have gone through this too, where they realize, I need to fill this time. I can't just sit at the at the preschool door waiting for them to come out all morning long. You got to figure out something. So you can start this process a lot earlier with the idea of making sure that you still remain a full person, even when the kids aren't in the picture.
Yeah, it's your identity. Right back to the beginning, what we started talking about. When your kids leave the house, your identity is wrapped up in your kids. They leave, now what? Your identity is really important. So you need to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You might go back to school and learn something. There's so many opportunities for us now through the internet, for example, in YouTube University, you can learn anything.
Yeah.
Well, there's really no excuse for you not to do it. It's just, what is it a priority for you?
Yeah.
Or have you even considered it? Maybe that might even be the question. Because I know a lot of dads may not even consider this. So as you get close to that life change, whatever that is, just think about what's next for me as a guy. And, I think everyone in your life wants you to be happy. Your partner, your kids, everybody, your people at work, they all want you to be happy. So that make it a priority. I think that's something for dads to consider.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. A lot of guys might be thinking, oh, my wife would never let me out for a Sunday to play golf or whatever. But when it comes right down to it, she'd much rather see you out doing something happy than lying on the couch, letting another day go by without fulfilling yourself and filling your cup, like you say.
You see people work their entire life, they retire, and then their health just goes
Yeah,
because their identity's changed.
I don't
They
want
don't know
that.
who they are anymore. They
Yep.
don't punch a clock, they don't have responsibilities, they don't have a job, they don't have a purpose. And a healthy male can quickly become unhealthy when you lack that sense of purpose and reason, right? So follow your reason, follow that. It's really part of your health
Yeah.
regimen as
Well,
well.
it's the same. Yeah, same thing as being a dad, whether it's you're throwing everything into your job or everything into fatherhood or anything, and then that there's a the expiration date on that. It's got to be a problem if you don't have something else going. This is all really good advice, and I really appreciate you thinking through it a lot. I mean, it seems like we've got almost like a one through 10 list of ways to prevent misery. I lead a group of men. Searching for meaning after 55, and it's I never pretend to be a guru or a wise person about this because it's always the same things. But it's back to one of the points you did make too about having friends and everything is this constant need for reiteration and support that there's meaning and there's more meaning in what you do rather than the absence of a conversation, which leads to kind of just meh, blah, I was into it, but I don't even care. That's the thing that we're all trying to fight
Yeah.
off, just trying to find that meeting. And
Yeah.
relationships are a big part of what that's about, I think.
Yeah. There's I go back to the fact that I'm an introvert and I meet people through podcasting online. Really nice for me. I met a guy named Dave Beckmeyer. He's a podcaster in the US. I'm in Canada. And him and I become great friends through the internet. I've never met him in person. We've
Yeah.
never shook his hand. He has a podcast called Outrage Overload. It's a really good podcast. Everyone should go listen to Dave Beckmeyer's show. Here's what Dave does, which I love. And I steal this idea. It's completely his. I didn't come up with this, but I think anybody who listens to this, you could do this yourself. Dave figured out, based on his age, his anticipated how much life he has left here, lifetime, right? So he's got a number and he represents that into weeks. So whatever that is for him, it's not meant to be morbid, but he just picked a number and he thinks he has X number of weeks left on this planet. He went out and got that amount of small little pebbles. He has them in a dish by the door at his house. And every week he takes one pebble out of the dish, making that dish one pebble less, puts that pebble into his pocket with his keys and his change. All week, he kind of puts his hand in his pocket and, oh, as a reminder, there's the pebble. All week, Monday through Friday, he carries it with him. On the weekends, he takes this one pebble representing the week completed, goes to his local river, pond, stream, and he thinks about the pebble in his fingers, tosses it into the pond, representing this week is now complete. And he thinks in that moment, how have I shown up for my family? How have I shown up for myself? How have I improved? Where am I at? And it's a reflective moment that this pebble I'm holding is now out. It's gone. I can never get it back. This week is over. And then next week he goes and grabs a new pebble. And every week he has this thought of, this is my bowl and it's shrinking in pebbles. What am I going to do with this week to make this week count for myself, my family, my community, whatever that is? It's a very purposeful, thoughtful approach to this timeline that we're on. And one thing I encourage men through my show, draw a line, horizontal line, representing your life, what you believe is beginning to end, and then put a vertical line where you think you are right now, representing how much time you have left. So if you're in your 50s, your line's going to be a little bit more to the right than it is to the left. If you're 25, you probably have more ahead of you than behind you. So that's kind of that line, right? So where are you on that line? And what are you going to do with the remainder of that line after that vertical line? And just it's an exercise to be reflective and go, wait, I only have so much time here on this world. So what am I going to do with what's remaining? Whether it's carrying a pebble in your pocket or just being more intentional, what are you going to do with what's left? And I just think that we go through life so much just doing the thing without thinking about our impact on our family, ourselves, and what we have left to give in this world. And I just think as men, we need to live with purpose, with intentionality. We need to show up for ourselves and our community to be a better human, to be a better example, to take care of ourselves physically so that we can be here longer. All of those things are important things for us to do and consider. So whatever it is for you, how you measure your remaining days, do that with intention. And I just love Dave Beckmeyer's pebble in the pocket. I just think that is, because what does that mean to you to see that pebble jar reducing in pebbles over time, right? And go, wow, maybe you're here longer than the pebbles. That is great, right? That's kind of the goal. But have some thought towards where you're going in the future and live life with purpose. And I think
there's,
cool.
Even if you don't believe in the intentionality and the, I don't want to call it scorekeeping, but like doing things and accomplishing things, because sometimes that is exhausting to contemplate. The part of the intentionality that I really love is the fact that if you don't do it, if you don't do these activities, you don't force yourself off the couch, you don't call your friends and do all these things, you end up being just miserable. So this is, you have to get ahead of it. You have to be proactive to avoid the kind of big hole you could suddenly find yourself in. And that's the, if the more altruistic and the bigger picture idea that you laid out, which is beautiful, isn't enough to get you there, do it to save yourself from, something really bad.
Yeah. Don't do life on autopilot. Don't be on cruise control. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Keep driving.
Yeah. Well, Dave, that sounds like a good place to end this. I really appreciate you taking the time. You can find you at dadspaces.ca for the podcast, but you also have a podcast network. You want to just say what the services are that you have within the podcasting network?
Yeah. So if you're like listening to this going, well, I never thought about doing a podcast. Well, maybe we can help you with that. I do have a thing called TrueMediaSolutions.ca. I'm in Canada, so everything here is basically .ca. truemediasolutions.ca. All of my different podcasts I host. I have 9 different shows because I have time. I just love podcasting. So if you're ever thinking about that or you're curious about podcasting, love to have a conversation with you.
Great. Appreciate you taking the time.
Excellent.
All right. Paul Banis with GreatDad.com. You can find my coaching services at GreatDad.com/go. Okay. Until next time, stay strong.